Hey guys, tonight we slip behind a pair of swinging doors that have seen more bad decisions than any jailhouse in the territory. You stand there, boots coated in street dust, hat pushed back on your sweaty forehead, staring at those doors like they might bite you first. Inside, you already know what waits for you. This is a Wild West saloon, not the polished, candlelit version from a romantic dime novel. No velvet curtains. No, polite piano ballads drifting like silk. Here, the piano limps through a tune, missing half its keys. The barkeep wipes glasses with a cloth, so filthy it could stand up and walk away if it had legs. You push those doors open. They slap back at your elbows, as if they want you gone before you even come in. And then, it hits you. Not the piano, not the barkeep's glare. The smell. Good grief. The smell. You probably would not survive this if your nose could file a complaint. Forget steak. Forget fresh bread. You get wet tobacco spit. Stale beer soaked deep into the planks. Sweat dripping from men who have not seen a bath since last spring. And somewhere under that disaster, a hopeful whiff of beans boiling in a dented pot. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And do me a favor, drop a comment below. Tell me where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. It always amazes me to see how far this little saloon of words travels. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pause by the door, letting your eyes adjust to the gloom. Sunlight slices through cracks in the walls like knives. Dust floats lazily in the beams. Pretending it is innocent. You know better. Near the piano, a man with 3 teeth plays something that might have been a song before he drank half a bottle of cheap whiskey. Each note squeaks and dies. Nobody cares. Nobody asks him to stop. It is just another sound layered over low laughter, mumbled insults, and the shuffle of boots on a sticky floor. You spot a table in the corner. It only has one leg shorter than the others. Good enough. You weave through chairs that look ready to collapse if you breathe too hard. At the table, you brush away crumbs, dried beer foam, and something that might have been a fly colony in its previous life. You sit. The chair complains under your weight. It does not break. Small miracles live here. Hidden between splinters, the barkeep lumbers over. He stares at you, like he is memorizing your face for the next missing poster. He says nothing, slides a glass across the table. The liquid inside is brown. That is all you get. Might be whiskey, might be varnish. Either way, you drink it. You make a face like you bit a cactus. He nods. That is the whole conversation. Behind him, a battered door swings half open. You catch a glimpse of the kitchen, if you can call it that. A stove squats in the corner, its iron belly belching black smoke. Pots bubble. Bonzis. A man with a beard that might hide a raccoon stirs a giant pot with a spoon, so big it could pass for a paddle. This is the cook, master of mystery stews and keeper of everyone's digestion or destruction. He barks at a boy hauling in firewood. He barks at the pot. He barks at himself. You silently decide you will not complain about your food when it arrives. Nobody survives picking a fight with the cook. Around you, the saloon is a living, wheezing beast. At the far end, a group of card players argues about whether a straight beats a flush. Fists clench. Voices rise. One man stands up so fast his chair skitters away like a scared cat. Then, just as quickly, someone laughs. The tension pops like a soap bubble, and cards slap back on the table. For now, nobody dies. Near the window, a prospector with pants, older than this state, mumbles about a gold strike. He swears he found north of town. No one listens. They have heard it before. He buys one shot of whiskey and nurses it like it is liquid gold, which, in a place like this, it practically is. Somewhere behind you, a pair of ranch hands share a joke about a donkey and a preacher that makes the barkeep roll his eyes and mutter something about burning the place down just to clean it. You smile into your drink, not because the joke is good, but because it reminds you nobody here has anything fancy. So they laugh at what they can. The door slaps open again. A gust of prairie wind blows in dry dirt, carrying more flies and the faint hint of fresh horse sweat. A new stranger steps inside. Everyone glances up. Quick scan. Friend or trouble? He nods once. Heads to the bar. Peace for now. You think about the food. Should you risk it? The cook is still alive. The last man who complained about the beans is not. People say he packed up and left town. People also say the cook buried him out back. You decide you are hungry enough to take your chances. A waitress slides past, balancing plates that look identical. Beans, salt pork, a stale biscuit the size of a hammer. That is the special tonight. That is the special every night. You tap the table, and she nods. No words exchanged. She has no time for your politeness. While you wait, you sip your varnish disguised as whiskey and soak in the atmosphere. A pair of old-timers debate whether Texas should stay Texas or become its own country again. A young cowboy leans close to a girl with bright eyes and sharp elbows. She smiles, pockets his coin, and walks away. He does not notice she lifted his pocket watch too. Above all of this, the piano man strikes a final chord. It clangs like a blacksmith's hammer. He wipes his mouth, stands, and falls over backwards. Nobody helps him up. He will wake when he wakes. The show must go on. And here the show never ends. Your plate lands in front of you. Steam rolls off the beans. A chunk of pork belly floats like a greasy crown. The biscuit looks mean. You do not ask what the cook used for seasoning. You do not want to know. You take a bite. It is warm. It is salty. It is not good. But it is food. And that is enough. You chew slowly, listening to the bar hum around you, like a beehive that knows how to swear and gamble. Tomorrow, you might saddle your horse, tip your hat to this sorry shack, and swear never to return. But you will, because no matter how bad it smells or how rough the whiskey burns, there is comfort here. A seat, a meal, a roof, and a story to drag behind you when you ride out into the dawn. So finish your drink. Wipe the bean sauce from your sleeve. Tip your hat to the barkeep if you feel brave. And brace yourself. Next up, we meet the real king of this joint. A humble bean that has started more fights than bad poker hands and cleared more rooms than a deputy with a shotgun. Sleep tight. You are going to need the rest. Section 2. Beans, bacon, and survival stew. You wake the next morning with a mouth like dried leather and the taste of cheap whiskey wrestling your tongue for dominance. The saloon still creaks around you, though the laughter and piano have been replaced by snores, coughs, and the soft scrape of a broom pushing last night's regrets into a corner. Your stomach reminds you why you're here. Not for poker, not for trouble, not even for the whiskey that still burns your throat when you burp. You're here because, on the unforgiving plains, beans keep you alive when everything else wants you dead. Beans are the undisputed king of the Wild West dinner plate. They don't spoil. They don't complain. And they don't care if the cook is sober or seeing triple. Pinto beans. Nave beans. Black beans. Nobody's picky when you've been chewing dust for a week. The cook, who looks only slightly less mean in daylight, lugs a battered pot to the stove. It's the same pot you saw last night, bubbling over the embers, like a cauldron brewing, curses and flatulence in equal measure. He dumps in more dry beans, more stale water, and a fistful of salt that probably won't be enough. He doesn't measure. He doesn't taste. He stirs once, grunts, and wanders off to yell at a boy for chopping wood too loudly. You watch the pot like it might bite you. It won't. Not yet. First, it has to soak and swell, until each bean is soft enough to chew, but stubborn enough to sit in your gut like a rock for hours. You could chew your hat and get more flavor, but your hat doesn't fill your belly or give you an excuse to linger near the warmth of the stove. Beside the pot sits a slab of salt pork, the bean's loyal sidekick. It's not bacon, though everyone pretends it is. Salt pork is tougher, greasier, and more likely to chip your tooth if the cook forgets to fry it long enough. Still, fried salt pork drips fat into the beans, pretending to be seasoning. When you're lucky, there's an onion tossed in. If you're very lucky, the onion is fresh. This meal is not about pleasure. It's about survival. Cowboys eat beans before a long ride. Miners swallow them before crawling into the earth. Drifters trade stories over them, and sometimes trade punches because of them. Nothing turns a polite room into a gas chamber faster than 10 men sitting shoulder to shoulder, all fueled by the same pot of overcooked legumes. You ladle yourself a scoop. It steams in the morning chill. It smells faintly like salt pork, and mostly like last night's regrets. You blow on it. You tossed it. It's mushy but warm. And that is enough. In the corner, a pair of cowhands argue about whose turn it is to pay for the next pot. Neither wants the honor. Beans may be cheap, but whiskey drains pockets faster than beans can refill them. The cook doesn't care who pays, so long as someone does. Otherwise, he's been known to pour the whole mess outside and tell everyone to go catch a rabbit instead. You chew slowly. The barkeep leans against the bar, polishing glasses that will never look clean again. He watches you with mild amusement, like he's waiting to see if you notice the grit at the bottom of your bowl. You do, but you keep eating. He nods. Respect, earned in silence. A few feet away, the piano man from last night sits up, rubs his eyes, and asks if there's coffee. The barkeep snorts. He points at a black kettle in the ashes. Cowboy coffee, strong enough to melt spoons and cure hangovers by force. The piano man pours himself a tin cup. He winces. He drinks anyway. Outside, the town stirs awake. Horses snort and stomp. Wagons rattle down the single dusty street. Somewhere, a rooster remembers he's supposed to crow. He does. Late and off-key. Like everything else here, you soak your biscuit in the bean broth, softening it until your teeth no longer fear it. You remember hearing someone say once that a smart man could live on beans and bacon alone for months if he had whiskey to wash it down. Whoever said that clearly never had to sleep beside a cowboy after a pot of beans. Still, for all their humble cruelty, beans are the quiet heartbeat of every saloon kitchen. When the chickens run off, when the stew pot runs dry, when the last rabbit escapes the trap, beans stay. Reliable, unchanging, filling. They don't ask for praise, and they certainly don't offer apologies. Historians still argue whether beans fueled the expansion west more than gold did. Gold fed greed. Beans fed stomachs. You can live without gold. Try living without something to chew when your belly sounds like a rattlesnake. You finish your bowl. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve. The barkeep nods again. Another silent transaction complete. You stand. A stretch. Feel the familiar weight settle low in your gut, like a warning from tomorrow's digestive reckoning. A grizzled old timer near the door catches your eye. He grins, showing more gum than teeth, and says, "Hope you didn't plan to be indoors all day." Son, you laugh because he's right. You will clear out before the beans do. In the Wild West, survival is simple. Eat what you can. Drink what you must. Laugh when possible. And never trust a quiet saloon full of cowboys who just finished a pot of beans. Next up, brace yourself. We tackle the other half of your plate. The biscuit that might be soft as a cloud if you're blessed, or hard enough to break your jaw if luck runs dry. Section 3. A biscuit or a brick. Morning slips through the cracked windows of the saloon, pulling you from the last crumbs of sleep and the final regrets of last night's whiskey. Around you, the place is slowly waking too. The cook's ladle clatters against a dented pot. The barkeep sweeps under tables sticky with last night's spills. And somewhere in a corner, a card game that never truly ended murmurs back to life. But your mind is on something else now. Not the whiskey that bit you back. Not the beans still whispering threats in your belly. No. Now it's the humble biscuit sitting on your plate, daring you to trust it. Out here, a good biscuit is a blessing whispered by the cooking gods. Flaky, warm, and soft enough to mop up gravy or stew dribbles without threatening your dental future. Done right. It crumbles at the edges, melts on your tongue, and makes a weary cowboy sigh, like he just found gold under his boot. Done wrong. It could break that same boot in half. You stare at yours, weighing its promise against your experience. It looks innocent enough. Round, a little cracked on top, a hint of warmth still clinging to its side, like a dying campfire. You poke it once with your spoon. It does not flinch. Encouraging. You tear off a piece. It fights you back. Less encouraging. You sniff it. It smells like flour, lard, and a desperate cook's prayer. In a saloon kitchen, that's as close to fresh-baked heaven as you'll ever get. You take a bite. Crunch. Not a gentle crumble. Not a soft sigh. Crunch. You chew. Yoryuf protests. You chew harder. Bits flake off. Some melt. Most resist. You wash it down with the last of your cowboy coffee. The biscuit absorbs the coffee like a sponge, but surrenders no flavor in return. And yet, you keep chewing. Why? Because out here, a bad biscuit is still better than no biscuit. A biscuit fills your belly. It soaks up bean juice, soaks up cheap whiskey, soaks up regrets you might otherwise have to think about when you roll into your bedroll tonight. At the next table, an old ranch hand laughs as he watches you gnaw your biscuit like a coyote on a buried bone. He lifts his own rock-hard trophy and knocks it twice against the table. The table loses. He grins, gums flashing where teeth used to be, and says, "Best biscuit in town." Kid, he's not wrong. It's also the only biscuit in town. Hardtack. Though that's another beast entirely. If you think this biscuit is cruel, wait until you meet hardtack. Soldiers chewed it during wars. Sailors gnawed it, crossing oceans. And cowboys kept it in saddlebags, long enough for it to develop its own life story. Hardtack doesn't bend. Hardtack doesn't mold. Hardtack doesn't care about your fragile molars. In some mining towns, they still serve hardtack with stew when the cook is too drunk to knead real biscuit dough. You know you're in trouble when the waitress drops it on your plate with a dull thud and tells you to soak it for a while if you value your teeth. Soaking can mean dipping it in stew, dunking it in coffee, or letting it float in whiskey if you're feeling fancy. Historians still argue whether hardtack should be classified as food or self-defense. Some claim a man once survived a bar fight by blocking a knife with a well-aimed slab of hardtack. It might be true. Nobody doubts it out here. But today, you're lucky. You have a biscuit. Not hardtack. Even if it's halfway to a brick, it still carries a whisper of home. It reminds you that once, somewhere, there was a kitchen with a proper stove, fresh milk, a patient mother kneading dough, and butter that didn't come from a barrel labeled God knows when. Out here, though, a biscuit is about practicality. Flour travels well. Lard keeps without fuss. A hot pan and a sharp eye are all a cook needs. Though whether your cook actually has a sharp eye depends on how much whiskey he's stolen from the bar that morning. You look around. A young drifter nearby tries to charm the waitress with a grin and a biscuit split open. Offering her half, she laughs in his face, takes the biscuit, and eats it herself. He's left with his grin and no breakfast, a lesson he'll chew on longer than his next meal. In the corner, a big man with hands like shovels dunks his biscuit directly into his mug of coffee. It softens just enough to swallow without breaking a tooth. He nods in approval at you, as if to say, "See old tricks, save teeth." You nod back, mentally storing that trick for tomorrow. One last bite. You push the crumbs around your plate with your spoon, gathering every flake like it might run away if you don't. In this saloon, you don't waste food. Even when it threatens to crack your molars in half, you lean back. Biscuit conquered. Outside, a gust of wind rattles the loose shutters and stirs the dust devils dancing in the street. Inside, the barkeep wipes the counter, eyes half closed. Humming a tune only, he remembers. You stretch your back, feeling the bean and biscuit duet settling heavily in your belly. It's not gourmet. It's not fancy. But you're warm. You're full. And for now, you're safe. And out here, that's worth more than all the gold some fool claims he buried out in the hills. Next time you complain about your fancy bread back home, remember this biscuit. Remember how it stood its ground. Unbending, unapologetic. A quiet, starchy reminder that in the Wild West, food is not love. Food is survival. Plain and simple. Next up, pour yourself another cup of that fearless cowboy coffee. Because we're about to sip on a brew so fierce, it dares you to blink twice. And if you do, it will win. Section 4. Coffee That Street, ours back. You might think you know what strong coffee tastes like. Maybe you pride yourself on brewing that bitter morning cup back home, daring your tongue to wake up before your alarm clock does. But out here in the Wild West, coffee isn't just strong, it's alive. And some days, it stares back at you like it's trying to decide if you're worth keeping conscious. You sit at the same rickety saloon table, your belly full of beans and a biscuit that almost fought you into defeat. Now you need something to chase it all down, and to slap your eyelids into submission. The barkeep shuffles over, his apron streaked with a crime scene of stains and yesterday's regrets. Without asking, he drops a tin mug in front of you. It thuds against the wood like a judge's gavel. Inside the mug is not the polite drip coffee you're used to. There's no paper filter, no delicate swirl, no fancy foam shaped like a leaf. This brew is cowboy coffee, boiled hard over coals until it's as black as a crow's wing, and just as unforgiving. You lift it cautiously. It smells like scorched dreams and burnt promises. You blow across the surface, hoping to cool it down. It laughs at you, still steaming like a hot spring in the middle of a snowstorm. You take a sip. Mistake. The first gulp burns your lips, then your throat, then wakes up parts of your soul you didn't even know were sleeping. You swallow, eyes watering, trying not to cough it right back onto your shirt. The barkeep watches, unimpressed. He's seen tougher men cry over this same tin mug. He's also seen them ask for seconds. So you know what you have to do. You take another sip. This time, your taste buds surrender. Immediately. They know they're not in charge anymore. Now it's just you and the coffee, having a staring contest. Spoiler, the coffee always wins, somewhere near the stove. The cook dumps yesterday's grounds into the fire and scoops new ones directly into the battered kettle. There's no measurement, no timer, and definitely no mercy. The cook's rule is simple. If it doesn't slap you awake faster than a gunshot, it's not ready. Historians still argue whether cowboy coffee actually made cattle drives possible, or if it just made cowboys too jittery to sleep through an ambush. Either way, you respect it. You have to, because once you've had a cup, your heartbeat writes its own bedtime story on your ribcage for the next few hours. At the next table, a miner with dirt under every fingernail lifts his mug in your direction. He tips it back and swallows 3 mouthfuls without blinking. He thumps the mug down, wipes his mustache, and grins, a grin full of cracked teeth and raw determination. You try not to look too impressed. In a corner, the piano man last night's floor ornament stirs, rubs his forehead, and groans for a refill. The barkeep obliges him with a mug so full it might eat through the tin if left unattended. He sips, grimaces, sips again. He'll live. Probably. You take another mouthful. It's cooling now, thickening near the bottom. Cowboy coffee doesn't hide its true nature. It leaves a sludge of gritty grounds, heavy enough to chew if you dare. Some old-timers say it's good for you. Adds fiber, keeps you regular. You suspect it's a lie, but you're not brave enough to argue with a man who drinks it by the pint. No sugar, no cream, no polite excuses. Just roasted beans, boiled in open air, served in dented mugs that have seen more saloon fights than the sheriff ever has. Back home, you might turn up your nose at such a brew. But here, you hold that mug like it's a promise that no matter how rough the trail ahead, this thick black potion will keep your eyelids from betraying you. A ranch hand limps in, hat askew, face still half asleep. He grumbles for coffee before he grumbles for food. The barkeep points at the kettle. He pours his own mug, spills half on the counter, mutters a curse, drinks it all anyway. Out here, coffee is not a luxury. It's a companion, a hard, bitter, backhanded friend that sits with you through cold mornings, long nights, and bad news. It wakes you up when you'd rather sleep forever. It keeps you upright when your bones threaten mutiny. It stands between you and the wolves, real or imagined. You swirl the last sip in your mug. Grounds cling to the sides like barnacles on a river barge. You toss it back, chewing the grit for good measure. The barkeep chuckles at you, wiping the counter with that same cloth that never quite does its job. You lean back, heart drumming out a fast beat. The cook slams another pot on the stove, muttering curses at the beans, the fire, and the whole idea of dawn itself. Outside, the sun crawls higher over the roofs of this nowhere town. Horses stomp in the street. A dog barks at a chicken that ignores him completely. Another day begins, and you are awake to meet it. Awake, wired, and half convinced. Your veins are now 50% caffeine and 50% regret. Next up, brace your taste buds again. It's time to meet the other greasy miracle that holds this saloon menu together. Salt pork. It's not bacon. It wishes it was. It wants you to believe it's bacon. But your teeth will know the truth soon enough. Section 5. Salt pork grease and grit. So, your belly has survived the beans. Your teeth have out-wrestled the biscuit. Your heart is still pounding, thanks to cowboy coffee that probably doubled as engine oil. Congratulations. You're ready for the next challenger on your Wild West breakfast plate. Salt pork. Greasy. Tough. Unapologetics. And the only thing standing between you and complete starvation, if the chickens run off again, let's be clear. Salt pork wants to be bacon. It dreams about it at night. But out here, dreams are cheap, and so is salt pork. Instead of neat slices sizzling in a fancy iron skillet, you get thick slabs of pork belly, dunked in brine until it's so salty you could season an ocean with the runoff. Then it's hacked into chunks by a cook whose knife is probably older than he is. You watch as the cook slams the skillet onto the stove. A splash of leftover lard hisses. He tosses in the pork. Smoke curls up, carrying a smell that fights your nose and wins. Somewhere beneath that smoke is a promise. A crisp bite, a little warmth, enough grease to coat your ribs, so you won't notice the wind slicing through your coat outside. Salt pork is survival food, with an attitude problem. It's chewy when undercooked. It's a rock when overcooked. Cooked just right. It's the closest thing you'll get to a real breakfast in a saloon, where fresh eggs are rarer than honest poker hands. You lean in, watching that fat spit and pop. The cook prods it with his spoon, muttering curses at the stove. He flips each piece once, twice, drops them onto your plate next to a fresh pile of beans and a new brick of biscuit for good measure. Balance. This is frontier nutrition. You pick up a chunk. It burns your fingers. You blow on it. Take a bite. Your teeth fight back tears, but manage the job. Grease runs down your chin. You wipe it with your sleeve. It tastes like salt, smoke, and the distant memory of an actual pig. You chew. You swallow. You feel marginally stronger for it. At the next table, a drifter leans over his plate, dipping his pork directly in bean juice. A smart trick. The salt cuts through the mush. The grease soaks into the beans. Everybody wins, except your arteries. But out here, who cares? Nobody lives long enough to worry about cholesterol. You worry about staying warm and upright. Not whether your blood pressure might win a wrestling match with your heart. Old-timers swear salt pork cured more ills than any doctor. Cold morning. Fry up pork. Headache from too much whiskey. Fry up pork. Lost your last dime in cards. Borrow more money. Buy pork. Fry it up. It makes you feel like you can take on the prairie. And sometimes, that lie is good enough. You watch the cook toss leftover scraps into a battered stew pot for tonight's mystery meal. Nothing goes to waste. Even the rind gets chopped small and buried in beans for the next round of hungry fools. The fat, oh the fat, is gold. It greases pans, seasons, biscuits, and polishes the barkeep's hair if he's in a hurry. You think I'm joking? Spend another week out here. You'll see. Salt pork is honest in its dishonesty. It promises you flavor, but demands your jaw do all the work. It promises you meat, but delivers mostly salt and dreams. Yet, by the time you wipe your plate clean with the last crumb of biscuit, you won't care, because your belly is full, your bones are warm, and in the Wild West, that's enough. Across the room, a young cowboy drops his fork, lets out a burp loud enough to hush the piano man mid-song. Everyone pauses, then laughter bubbles up, a rare moment of shared joy in a place that usually trades in grumbles and half-truths. Even the barkeep cracks a grin. You lean back in your chair. Plate empty, except for a smear of grease you'll find on your shirt later. You sip the last sludge of your coffee. The cook slams his pan on the stove again, ready for the next fool who dares to ask for seconds. You survived the salt pork. You survived the beans. You survived the biscuit. For now, you belong here. A little saltier, a little greasier, and definitely more awake than when you stumbled through those swinging doors. But don't get too comfortable, because every saloon worth its squeaky piano hides another secret in the back pot. A stew, a bubbling, suspicious cauldron of hope and horror. One whiff makes you believe there's real meat inside. One taste makes you question your life choices. Get ready, because next, we lift the lid on the saloon stew. May your stomach forgive you. Section 6. Mystery Meat and the Stew Pot. By now, you have learned a hard truth about the Wild West saloon menu. Nothing here is fancy. Nothing here is polite. And nothing tests your bravery quite like the stew pot simmering quietly behind the bar. Stew in a place like this is both a blessing and a gamble. You lift the lid, hoping for tender beef and fresh vegetables. What you get is hot, liquid courage swirling around whatever the cook found still moving yesterday. This morning's stew smells acceptable. Steam rolls out as the cook leans over it, his face hidden in the fog of bubbling broth and secrets. He stirs with a spoon big enough to double as a weapon. Now and then he plucks something from the pot and tosses it behind him, a bone too big to chew, a chunk that growled back. Maybe a string that looks suspiciously like a bootlace. You pretend not to notice. You remind yourself you came here for survival, not a 5-star meal. You sit up straighter as the cook ladles you a bowl. He slams it down in front of you, juice sloshing over the rim. He grunts. That's the closest you'll get to a bon appetit in this town. You pick up your spoon. You hesitate. You remind yourself you survived the salt pork. You survived the biscuit. Surely, you can handle a bowl of hot stew. The first sip is warm, savory. Not bad. You dare another spoonful. Soft beans. A few chunks of potato surrender under your teeth. Then you find something tougher. You chew. You chew more. You decide it's probably meat. You pray it's meat. You swallow. Your stomach says nothing, which is a good sign. Stew in a saloon is more than food. It's a practical way to hide sins. If the beef went bad, boil it longer. If the rabbit escaped, throw in a squirrel. If the squirrel escaped too, well, there's always a rattlesnake, if someone was brave enough to catch it. Some say the secret ingredient is whatever the cook caught under the floorboards when the rats weren't watching. Some say that's just mean gossip. You keep eating anyway. Hunger does not have time for rumors. Across the room, a pair of old-timers debate the stew's flavor. One swears there's venison in it today. The other bets it's mule meat, left over from a pack animal nobody wants to claim. Neither stops eating. Arguments out here don't spoil appetites. Sometimes the cook gets fancy. He throws in onions. Maybe a sprinkle of dried herbs, if a trader passed through with a few spare sprigs. If he's in a good mood, he might drop a splash of leftover whiskey right into the pot. That's his idea of fine dining. You keep spooning stew into your mouth. Each bite, just different enough to keep you suspicious, but warm enough to keep you grateful. One mouthful is mostly broth. The next surprises you with a chunk that might be beef or might be part of something you don't want to think about. You chew faster. Better not to know. There's comfort in the heat, though. The steam fogs your eyelashes. The warmth seeps down into your bones. Out on the prairie, this bowl might mean the difference between freezing and surviving the night under a thin blanket. Nobody here expects luxury. They expect calories and a fair chance to live another sunrise. Stew delivers both. Next to you, the piano man, newly awake and newly miserable, groans for his share. The cook shoves a bowl at him with a curse and a slap to the back of the head. He gulps it down, spilling half on his boots. He does not complain. He knows better. A child wanders in, carrying a battered tin bowl. The cook pauses. A softer side flickers through the smoke. He ladles out a scoop. Extra potato. This time, the child grins and runs back out into the morning sun. In this saloon, even hard men know a hungry belly is the one enemy worth feeding without question. You scrape the bottom of your bowl. Bits of soft potato. A few stray beans. A swirl of gravy that clings to the metal spoon like it knows you won't waste it. You tip the bowl back and drink the rest, like a shot of whiskey. Warmth fills your chest. You are full. You are safe. For now, a miner near the door coughs into his mug and says loud enough for everyone to hear, "I swear, if I find a bootstring in my stew again, I'm suing the cook for false advertising." The barkeep laughs. The cook does not. He brandishes his spoon like a sword. The miner wisely shuts up. You push your bowl away, licking the last warmth from your lips. You lean back in your chair, listening to the piano man pick out a tune with more wrong notes than right ones. You smile anyway. It fits the mood. The stew pot bubbles behind the bar. Feeding drifters, cowboys, miners, and one curious soul like you. Nobody loves it. Nobody hates it enough to stop coming back. Because when the prairie wind howls at the door and the night creeps close, nothing keeps a man standing like a belly full of hot mystery stew. Next, we tackle the final element of your wild saloon meal, the sweet miracle that sometimes appears when the cook finds an ounce of mercy in his whiskey-soaked heart. Cornbread and molasses. A dessert maybe. A hope for a better tomorrow, definitely. Hold on to your spoon. You'll want it for this last treat. Section 7. Cornbread and molasses. Sweetness in a bitter land. You have made it this far. Beans didn't break you. Biscuit didn't crack your teeth for good. Salt pork didn't ruin your trust in pigs. Stew didn't betray your stomach more than usual. So now, my friend, you deserve a reward. A tiny, crumbly, sticky sweet miracle hiding behind every rough saloon meal. Cornbread and molasses. Out here, dessert isn't guaranteed. Nobody lights candles. Nobody folds napkins into swans. Nobody sprinkles powdered sugar like a fancy city baker. But sometimes, if the cook feels kind or needs to bribe the barkeep, he whips up a pan of cornbread and cracks open the barrel of molasses. When he does, the whole room softens. Just a little. The cornbread comes out in big rough chunks, cut straight from an iron skillet that has never once seen soap. You can taste last month's batch in every bite. But that's all right. That's part of the charm. It smells like toasted corn and survival. It looks golden on top and crumbly at the edges. It breaks apart in your fingers, leaving a trail of crumbs no one dares waste. You pull your share closer. You tear a piece off, still warm enough to make your fingers hum. It tastes dry at first, like most good things out here. But wait, because here comes the hero that makes it shine: molasses. The barkeep plunks a little jug next to your plate. It sticks to your fingers before you even open it. One sniff, and you're 10 years old again, standing near a kitchen door that never squeaked, begging for a drip of sweetness, while the grown-ups argued about chores and debt. You pour a slow, dark river over your cornbread. It soaks in quick, clinging to every crumb. It drips down your knuckles. You do not care. You lick it clean, because that's how you know you're still human, and not just a walking pile of beans and salt pork. Your first bite of this sticky, sweet mess melts right under your tongue. For a moment, you forget the hard floor you'll sleep on tonight. You forget the saddle sore waiting tomorrow. You forget the cook's dirty ladle and the barkeep's suspicious grin. All you know is molasses. Dark, sweet, home, bottled up and dragged out here to the edge of nowhere. Across the room, even the grumpy old ranch hands hush up when the cornbread arrives. A young drifter at the next table pokes his slice, then pours on so much molasses it drips onto his boot. He shrugs. Boots wash off. Free sweetness doesn't come back if you waste it. One card player holds his piece like gold, chewing slow, eyes half closed. He probably hasn't had real cake in 10 years. This is good enough to stand in. The piano man, halfway sober now, plays a tune that almost stays in key for once. The barkeep lets him finish, because even he knows you don't ruin the taste of cornbread and molasses with yelling or gunshots. It's the only thing in this room holding people together for 5 quiet minutes. Out here, sugar is a luxury. Molasses travels better than fresh fruit or fancy frosting. One barrel can keep a whole town civil through a harsh winter. When the stew is thin, when the pork is suspect, when the coffee is halfway to tar, molasses reminds everyone There's still something sweet left in this world. You wipe your plate clean with your last bite. You lick your fingertips without shame. Nobody judges you. They are too busy doing the same. A man might swing a fist at you for cheating at cards, but spill his molasses, and he might cry instead. Priorities. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the shutters and stirring the dust that creeps under the door. No matter how hard the barkeep swears, he'll fix it one day. Inside, bellies are full, spoons are dropped, and for a rare moment, the saloon hums with quiet contentment instead of clinking glasses and half-mean laughter. This little slab of cornbread, dripping in dark sweetness, reminds you why folks come back here. Not for the whiskey, not for the card games, not for the cook's questionable stew. They come back because once in a while, then you sit among strangers and remember you're all just people looking for a scrap of warmth and a taste of something kind. You lean back, eyes drifting half-shut. The barkeep catches you and slaps the table. No sleeping at the table. He growls, "Go find a corner, or pay for a room if you plan to snore." You grin, stand up, and brush the crumbs from your shirt. Your boots feel heavier, but your heart feels lighter. Out here, that counts for a lot. Next time, we tackle the last piece of this salty, sweet puzzle: eggs and chicken. If the cook hasn't scared off all the hens yet, if you're lucky, you'll get a fresh egg that doesn't bounce when it hits the pan. If you're unlucky, well, that's another story. Sleep tight, partner. You're gonna need it. Section 8. Eggs and chicken. A rare treasure. Morning rolls in again, dragging pale light through the greasy saloon windows. You sit there, boots crossed at the ankle, belly still humming from last night's bean stew and that unexpected sweetness of molasses. Now, as the cook rattles pans behind the bar, you hear the word whispered, like a prayer, by a passing ranch hand. Eggs. And maybe, if the stars have mercy today, chicken too. Fresh eggs in this dusty edge-of-nowhere town are as rare as polite drunks. Hens don't thrive out here unless someone guards them like treasure. Coyotes, foxes, and hungry cowboys with empty pans have a way of thinning out the flock. But when the cook has eggs to spare, the whole room shifts from grumbling to hopeful in seconds. You watch him now, cracking one delicate miracle after another over a battered iron pan. The shells hit the floor. Nobody cares. He grumbles under his breath about how hard it is to keep hens alive longer than a payday. But even he can't help cracking a crooked grin when the whites sizzle and bubble into gold at the edges. You sniff the air. For once, the saloon smells less like sweat and more like breakfast in a home you barely remember. Somewhere safe. Somewhere quiet. A place where an egg wasn't a luxury, but a promise that tomorrow might be kind too. He drops a pair of fried eggs onto your plate. The yolks wobble like sunshine trapped in circles of white. Beside them, to a piece of chicken, so scrawny, it looks like it died, angry, fried to a crisp in leftover pork fat. A treat, he says with a grunt. You nod. You know better than to question kindness around here. You cut into an egg. The yolk bursts, bright and warm, soaking into the biscuit you scrounged from yesterday's crumbs. For a heartbeat, you forget every missing tooth this saloon might have cost you. You just iced home. The chicken. Well, you brace yourself. You pull off a bite. It's stringy, a little tough. A few feathers cling to the crispy edge, whispering that out here, nothing comes perfect. But you chew. You swallow. And your gut thanks you anyway. Protein is protein when the prairie wind wants to strip your bones by nightfall. Near you, a young ranch hand dips his fried egg in a smear of leftover molasses. A trick his mama taught him. He brags. It tastes like a breakfast, and dessert got in a fist fight on his tongue. He laughs through a mouthful. Yolk dripping down his chin. Nobody scolds him. The barkeep just tosses him an old rag to mop up the mess. At another table, the piano man, who still owes last week's bar tab, sweet talks the cook into sliding him a single egg. He pops it whole into his mouth, eyes rolling back like he's met a merciful god. For 3 seconds, is quiet. Miracles do happen here. You think eggs and chicken say something about a saloon. They say the place isn't dead yet. They say the cook still cares. In his grumpy, grease-stained way. They say the barkeep hasn't gambled away every cent to restock the pantry. They say hope lives. If only from sunrise to sundown, you finish your last bite. You lick your fork clean, ignoring the dull scrape of old tin on your teeth. You glance out the window. The sun is rising high now. Another day of horses, cards, dust, and prayers not to get shot by sunset. But for now, you stand up with an egg's worth of courage settling under your ribs. Out here, that counts for more than you'd think. Behind you, the cook wipes the counter with the back of his hand, glares at the pot of beans, ready to bubble again. He mutters something about needing more hens before winter comes. Nobody answers. They all know it's true. The barkeep catches your eye. He nods once. That means you're welcome back tomorrow. Bring coins. Bring patience. Bring an appetite for whatever meat wanders too close to the door tonight. Outside, horses snort and tug at hitching posts. A stray dog noses at the steps, sniffing for scraps. You step out into the light, belly warm, breath fogging in the dawn. You glance back at the swinging doors. You grin. You survived beans, biscuit, pork, stew, cornbread, molasses, on egg, and a chicken that never had a chance. Out here, that's a victory worth more than gold dust. And tomorrow, if luck holds, you'll walk back through those doors, drop a few coins on the bar, nod at the cook, and say, the usual, he'll grunt, you'll sit, and the cycle will begin again. Next up, brace your gut one last time, because some brave soul might order pie. And pie in this saloon is a legend that has started more bar fights than bad whiskey and crooked cards combined. Sleep easy. Partner, you'll need that strength. Section 9. Pie hope served in a tin plate. If you thought beans were reliable, biscuits were hard, and stew was suspicious. Just wait until you meet the real troublemaker on a saloon table. Pie. 1 word, 2 letters, short of peace. And yet, in this dusty room full of cowhands, drifters, and men who'd punch each other over a crooked card, nothing stirs up more envy and soft sighs than a warm, wobbly slice of pie. You see it before you smell it. A battered tin plate, edges bent from too many bar fights and hasty washings in creek water. On that plate, a triangle of crust and fruit filling. Steam curls up, mixing with the stale smoke and whiskey breath of the saloon. Heads turn, forks pause, mid-air. One man mutters a prayer under his hat. Pie out here is more rumor than routine. Fresh fruit is rare, unless a passing trader dumps a barrel of bruised apples on the town for twice what they're worth. So most pies are built from dried fruit. Canned fruit if you're fancy, or whatever the cook can stew into sweetness without drawing flies. But here's the magic. Nobody cares if the apples are half mush or the berries taste a bit fermented. Out here, a bite of pie feels like an apology from the world, a soft reminder that tomorrow might not be so hard. The cook slides a slice your way, using the same knife he used to dice salt pork 2 hours ago. You do not care. You pick up your fork. You cut a corner. The crust flakes. Not perfectly, but enough. The filling is warm, sweet, a little sour. You close your eyes. You chew slow. If molasses is hope in a jar, then pie is hope that's been given shape, heat, and a secret promise that the world can be kind. Once in a while, at the next table, a ranch hand tries to trade his half-finished stew for a slice. No chance. Another man offers a swig of hidden whiskey. The cook laughs in his face. Nobody trades pie. You earn it, or you watch someone else eat it and suffer in silence. One time, they say, a traveling gambler swiped the last piece of peach pie from under another man's spoon. The fight that followed cracked a window, 3 chairs, and half the gambler's teeth. The pie survived the chaos. Someone scooped it off the floor, dusted it off, and finished it without a second thought. No regrets. Pie is worth it. You take another bite. Softer now. The crust gives way easy. The filling clings to your tongue like a memory of better kitchens and slower mornings. The barkeep watches you, wiping glasses that never get clean. He nods, approving your good fortune tonight. In a corner, the piano man coughs politely. He tries to barter a sad song for a forkful. The cook ignores him. Nobody trades pie for music. If you want sweetness, you pay or you wait until the next miracle batch. Outside, the wind rattles the sign above the door. Inside, for a moment, there is peace. Rough men lean back in their chairs, bellies warm, spoons laid to rest. For 10 heartbeats, no one argues about lost money, stolen horses, or who owes who a bullet. Because right now, someone's got pie, and the rest remember what it feels like to hope for dessert. You scrape your plate clean, catching every sticky smear of filling and every crumb of crust. You lick your fork. Nobody laughs. They do the same. This tiny taste of softness might be the last good thing you swallow until payday. The cook slides the empty tin toward the sink. He wipes his hands on his apron, mutters about needing more sugar, more flour, more luck. Same as every day. Tomorrow, maybe there'll be another pie. Or maybe there won't. That's the game. That's the West. You lean back, full now, in a way that beans, salt pork, and stew can never promise. Pie is different. Pie is comfort in a world that mostly spits in your face. You tip your hat at the cook. He shrugs like he doesn't care. But you see the corner of his mouth twitch. He knows exactly what he did. He gave a room full of hard men something soft to remember. Next time, when someone brags about the whiskey, the poker, or the piano tunes, shake your head. Tell them the truth. The best part of any saloon worth its broken windows is not the fight, not the drink, but the fleeting chance to taste something sweet and dream like a child again. And if you ever find a saloon without pie, keep riding. Some things are worth the extra mile. Now, finish your last sip of bitter coffee. Stand up slow and walk out those swinging doors like you own the whole sky. You've earned it. Tomorrow, the beans will be there. The salt pork will be there. Maybe the stew will greet you like an old debt. But tonight, you got pie. And that, a friend, makes you richer than any fool who ever dug for gold in these hills. Section 10. Final thoughts: survival, laughter, and one more round. So, here you sit, full of beans, biscuit crumbs in your pocket, a belly coated in salt pork grease, coffee still buzzing in your veins, and a ghost of pie sweetness lingering on your tongue. Congratulations, partner. You've survived a full day's worth of saloon dining in the Wild West. No small feat for a stomach used to soft bread and clean spoons. Look around one last time. The barkeep wipes the counter with a rag that's probably older than the floorboards. The cook shuffles pots and pans, muttering threats at the next sack of dry beans. The piano man plucks a tune that wobbles between sad and silly, missing more notes than he hits. But nobody cares. Outside, a gust of wind rattles the shutters and chases a stray dog past the hitching posts. This is the heartbeat of a town that barely has a name on a map, a place where men come hungry and leave warm, if not exactly satisfied, where plates are scraped clean, mugs banged empty, and tomorrow's meal is never guaranteed. You might think, sitting in your soft chair, far from this dusty corner of nowhere, that these saloon meals sound rough, maybe even cruel. But out here, food is more than food. It's company. It's fuel for work. No honest soul would volunteer for twice. It's an excuse to linger near the warmth of the stove instead of facing the cold wind too soon. And above all, it's a fragile promise that no matter how mean the world turns tonight, you'll have a reason to open your eyes when morning cracks over the prairie. Listen closer, and you'll hear the laughter hidden in the smoke and the stale whiskey smell. The barkeep teasing a young drifter for mistaking salt pork for fresh bacon. The cook grumbling but slipping an extra biscuit to the piano man when he thinks nobody's looking. A ranch hand and a miner trading insults over stew that could be shoe leather or could be rabbit. Nobody's sure, and nobody truly wants to know. Survival here doesn't come with a clean plate and a napkin folded fancy beside your fork. It comes with beans that fill you cheap. It comes with coffee that keeps your eyes open on the night watch when wolves prowl at the fence line. It comes with salt pork fat dripping down your chin while you plan tomorrow's bad decisions. And when you're lucky, just lucky enough, it comes with pie that reminds you life isn't all grit and gunpowder. Sometimes it's a warm bite of something soft, sweet, and stubbornly hopeful. You push back from the table. You nod at the barkeep. You tip your hat at the cook. Neither smiles big, but you see it in the corner of their eyes. You're welcome back. As long as you can pay, as long as you're polite, as long as you don't cause more trouble than the furniture can survive. Outside, your horse shifts in the dust. Tired, but patient. You step into the cold morning or the long evening, it hardly matters which. You carry that saloon meal inside you now. Every burp, a reminder of cheap beans and braver days. Your boots crunch in the street. Your shoulders feel heavier, but your chest feels lighter. Because once you've eaten like this, you know a secret most city folk never will. Out here, food doesn't just feed you. It binds you to every soul scraping by under this wide, relentless sky. It gives you a place to laugh, when laughter is the only shield you have left. It gives you enough warmth to spit in winter's face. It reminds you, in one final greasy burp, that survival is sometimes enough reason to grin and order another round tomorrow. So tip your hat. Hold the door open just long enough to let the next fool stumble inside. Tell him the beans are worth it. The coffee bites back. And the pie, if there's pie, is the closest thing to gold he'll taste today. Then swing your leg over that saddle. Spit the dust from your mouth. And ride on. You're full. You're awake. And you're still here. In the Wild West. That's a victory worth raising your mug for. One more round. Barkeep. One more round for the road. Section 11. One last look before you go. Before you kick open those swinging doors for the final time tonight. Take a breath. Smell the last curl of smoke drifting from the kitchen, mingling with stale whiskey and sawdust. Listen to the clink of mugs, the soft shuffle of boots, and the barkeep's low curse when someone spills their drink. This is your last look at the little world that keeps men warm when the prairie wind howls like a hungry ghost. Some folks think saloons are just about liquor and bad cards. They're wrong. Sure, whiskey flows faster than truth around here. Cards slap the table hard enough to break hearts and wallets in the same hand. But food, that humble mess of beans, pork, stew, and maybe a slice of pie, is the glue that holds this place together. It fills the gap between regrets. It hushes a drunk before he throws a punch. It softens the sharp edge of a loss at the poker table. It promises a traveler he's not alone. At least until the plate's clean and the coffee's gone cold. Watch the cook a moment. See how he leans on his spoon like it's a cane holding up his pride. How he stirs the pot, scolds it, loves it in his own foul-mouthed way. He won't say it out loud. But every bowl he serves is a truce with the world outside these walls. Catch the piano man's eye. He'll wink if he's half awake, tapping out another tune that drifts between sorrow and a dirty joke. His fingers miss the keys. But nobody cares. He's the soundtrack to your second mug of tar-thick coffee and the reason you laugh when you should be crying about tomorrow's chores. Look at the barkeep, wiping down the counter for the 100th time tonight, pretending he doesn't care who comes and who goes. But he sees everything. He counts your coins before you do. He remembers who paid, who didn't, and who needs an extra spoonful of stew when payday's still too far off. This room with its cracked windows, sticky floors, and smell of sweat, beans, and burnt pork is a fortress against the empty prairie. No stone walls, no soldiers at the gate, just food, laughter, and the stubborn faith that tomorrow you'll wake up hungry and stumble right back through these doors for more. So stand up slow. Feel that biscuit brick still working its way down. Pat your belly. Tug your hat down over your eyes just enough to hide the grin you can't help but wear. You came for food. You stayed for the comfort no man wants to admit he needs. Push through those doors. Let them flap behind you like they always do. Feel the cold slap your face. Clear your head. Remind you that out here, nothing soft lasts too long, except maybe the memory of molasses on warm cornbread and that one bite of pie you'll brag about for weeks. In your pocket, a few coins rattle. Enough for another meal tomorrow, if the road doesn't swallow you first. Enough for another mug of coffee, strong enough to knock the night out of your eyes. Enough to make you nod at the barkeep like an old friend and tip your hat at the cook who'll just grunt in return. Behind you, laughter rolls out of the saloon, chasing you down the steps, into the night where the stars blink cold and distant above your head. Your boots crunch the dry earth, your breath curls white in the moonlight, and deep in your chest, a small warmth flickers not from the whiskey or the stew, but from knowing you're still here, still breathing, still laughing at a world too big to tame. Tomorrow, there will be more beans, more stew, more stories whispered over battered tin plates, more Pierre, if fortune is kind. But tonight, you're full, you're alive, and for a man drifting through this wild, half-settled land, that's more than most can claim. One last nod at the door, one last glance at the flickering lanterns inside. Then you walk into the darkness, leaving behind the cook, the barkeep, the piano man, and all the greasy, glorious chaos they guard like a half-forgotten dream. Sleep well. Partner, you've earned it. And when dawn tugs you awake, dusty and sore, just remember, the saloon will be there. So will the beans. So will the laughter. And if you're real lucky, so will the pie. Section 12. Bonus tips to survive your next saloon meal. So you think you're ready? Huh? You've heard the stories. You've imagined the beans, the pork, the stew bubbling with secrets, and that single slice of pie that could cost you a tooth or a black eye. Before you swing those saloon doors wide again, let's lay down a few hard-learned survival tips. Call them your guide to not embarrassing yourself or your gut next time you sit down at that splintered table. Tip 1. Never trust a fresh-looking biscuit. It might be warm and soft today. Tomorrow, it could break your knife before it breaks in half. Tap it gently. If it sounds like knocking on the sheriff's door at midnight, order the stew instead. Tip 2. Always inspect your coffee. If it moves on its own, pour another mug from the top of the pot. Not the bottom. The bottom is where bitterness, regret, and last week's grounds settle to plot your downfall. A good cowboy knows when to sip slow and when to just chew and pray. Tip 3. Eat your beans last if you have somewhere to be soon. Trust me on this. 1 cowboy is tolerable. 10 cowboys full of beans in a cramped saloon turns that building into a biological war zone faster than a gunfight. Tip 4. Never insult the cook. Not about the stew. Not about the salt pork. Not even when you find something in your bowl that might once have had whiskers. A cook remembers who talks smart. Next time, your plate might be extra special, and not in a good way. Tip 5. If you see pie on the counter, forget your manners. Stand up. Wave a coin. Sell your hat if you must. Pie doesn't wait for slow hands, and nobody shares it out here. It's every hungry fool for himself when fruit and crust meet in the same sentence. Tip 6. If the chicken looks small and mean, it probably lived that way. Don't expect soft, juicy bites, like your city mama makes. Expect bone. Expect chewing. Expect to thank it anyway, because out here, meat is meat. Feathers optional. Tip 7. Never play cards with a man who orders only coffee and pie. He's got enough caffeine to outthink you and enough sugar to sweet-talk you into losing your boots, your horse, and your pride. Finish your plate. Tip your hat. And find another table. Tip 8. Pay the barkeep first if you plan to nap by the stove. Otherwise, you'll wake up missing your hat or your boots, or you'll wake up outside, face down in the dust, with the door locked behind you. This saloon feeds you, but it's not your mama's porch. Tip 9. Leave a crumb or two for the stray dog at the door. Dogs remember kindness. Men remember debts. Out here, the dog's loyalty might outlast the cook's stew. Tip 10. Finally, and listen close. Partner, savor every bite, even when it's burnt, bland, or questionable. Because one day the trail will stretch far, and the wind will bite deep, and you'll dream of this meal: beans, pork, stew, pie, laughter, warmth, a roof that leaks only sometimes. Out here, the saloon meal is more than food. It's a shield against the cold, the hunger, and the quiet loneliness that prowls just outside the light. So chew slow, smile often, pay your tab, and tomorrow, come back, hungry. There's always another plate waiting for a fool brave enough to lift his spoon and his spirits one more time. You step away from the table now. Boots creaking, belly full, mind buzzing with too much coffee and just enough hope. The cook nods once. The barkeep wipes that same stubborn spot on the bar. The piano man plays you out with a sour note that somehow feels just right. Push open those doors, squint into the wind, and grin at the wild world waiting outside. You're ready. Beans or bullets. You'll handle both. After all, you survived the saloon meal. You can survive anything. Section 13. Closing words. A toast to the hungry and the brave. So here we are. Partner, end of the line for tonight's tale. Your spoon's dry. Your plate's clean. Your belly hums with a chorus of beans, salt pork, stew, coffee, pie, and one stubborn biscuit, still fighting for space somewhere under your ribs. Good. That means you did it right. Take a moment. Lean back. Close your eyes. Feel the weight of every bite you braved. Each mouthful a promise that, for all its rough edges. This wild land feeds its own. Not always, well, not always gentle, but enough to keep a heartbeat drumming through another cold dawn. Raise your cup. Whatever's left in it, water, coffee sludge, or a shot of whiskey, if the barkeep likes you tonight. This is your toast. A quiet salute to every drifter, ranch hand, gambler, and lone soul who ever warmed their bones at a greasy saloon table. To the cook who doesn't smile but keeps you alive. To the barkeep who sees your lies but pours you a drink anyway. To the piano man who never plays the same tune twice but somehow knows just when you need to hear it. Most of all, to you hungry, tired, pockets light but spirit stubborn. You come in dusty, you leave heavier, maybe in the belly, maybe in the heart, maybe both. You walk out through those swinging doors and face whatever waits beyond the lantern glow. Bandits, storms, bad luck, or worse, your own foolish choices catching up at last. But you go out stronger than you came in, because you sat here with all your worries curled in your gut, and you traded them for beans and laughter. You left a little kindness behind. You carried a little warmth away. That's the kind of wealth no crooked card hand can steal. Remember this, when the wind howls and the prairie whispers your name like a dare, when your saddle feels too hard, your boots feel too thin, and your pockets feel too empty. Remember the salt pork grease on your fingers. Remember the last crumb of molasses cornbread melting on your tongue. Remember that single glorious bite of pie that made you forget, just for a heartbeat, how mean this world can be. And if you find yourself lost, cold, near broke, find another saloon. Step inside. Order the beans. No matter how plain, nod at the cook. Tip the barkeep. Hum along to the piano man's half-forgotten tune. Taste the warmth. Share the noise. Forget your troubles, one spoon at a time. This is your armor. Partner, not steel, not gold, but a full belly and a soul reminded that for every bitter mile, there's a bite of sweetness somewhere, waiting for you if you know where to look. So here's to you, a fool for wandering, a hero for surviving. May your boots hold up, your horse stay steady, and your hunger always lead you back to a door swinging wide. A cook cussing softly, and a bowl steaming hot under a crooked lamp. Go now. Ride on. Eat well when you can. Laugh louder when you can't. And when the story of you drifts through another dusty town, may they say he was hungry. He was stubborn. He was never alone. Good night. Oh friend, sleep warm, dream sweet, and may your next plate, wherever you find it, be just as honest and twice as kind. Section 14. A night's promise and tomorrow's hunger. Before you drift off, belly quiet, mind half floating, somewhere between an old tune on the piano and the last bite of pie. Remember this, out here, nothing stays easy for long. The sun will rise tomorrow, drag its sharp light across cracked boards and dusty boots. Men will shuffle back through those same doors, pockets lighter than they promised themselves last night. Beans will boil again. Salt pork will sizzle and spit across the cook's battered stove. The barkeep will count coins that never add up the same way twice. And you'll be there too. Because once you've tasted a saloon's promise, half warmth, half trouble, always honest, you come back. Not because the food is fine, not because the stew is safe, but because this crooked corner of the prairie feels a little like belonging when the wind howls and the prairie asks too many questions. Tomorrow, you'll curse the beans again. You'll swear off the biscuit when it chips another tooth. You'll chew salt pork like an old boot and grin anyway. Because in every greasy bite, every slurp of overboiled coffee, there's something no storm or bullet can take away. A reminder that survival is sweeter when it's shared. Listen close. The piano man fumbles the last chord, but his laughter keeps the tune alive. The cook wipes his hands on an apron that should have retired 10 winters ago. He barks at a scrawny boy to stoke the fire before the night wind crawls back in through the cracks. The barkeep nods at you. Quiet, but watching, always watching. Tomorrow, he'll pour your coffee the same way he does tonight. Strong enough to keep your eyes open through another fight. Another dawn. You stand, bones heavy, heart lighter than it deserves to be. Outside, your horse shifts in the shadows. The stars wait for you. Silent and endless, above this stubborn stretch of land. One more look back. The lamp flickers. The laughter softens. The stew pot bubbles like an old secret that never runs dry. If you're wise, you'll remember tonight when your saddle bites your hips and the road shows you its teeth. If you're lucky, you'll find another door just like this one, a few dusty miles away, another cook to curse you for asking too many questions about his meat, another barkeep to pretend he doesn't care while he keeps you honest. And if you're truly blessed, you'll find another slice of pie waiting for you at the end of a long day. So sleep deep tonight. Partner, let the beans settle. Let the salt pork dream its salty dreams in your gut. Tomorrow will be mean enough. Tonight, you earned the softness of a full belly and a good laugh. That's more than most get out here. Rest easy under your hat. The saloon door will swing wide for you again, and the stew, questionable as ever, will still be there to greet you like an old friend who never really leaves. Section 15. Closing blessing. The road. The spoon. And the stars. One last breath. Partner. One last flicker of lamplight behind your eyelids. One last promise, whispered into the smoke curling from the stove that never goes cold for long. Tonight, you've walked through the whole wild menu, from gritty beans to half-burnt pork, from stew with secrets to cornbread that caught your heart, all the way to a slice of pie, so sweet you'd fight your own brother for it. Not bad for a soul drifting between nowhere, towns and dawns that come too fast. Out here, the road is your only constant friend. It kicks your boots, tears your hat loose, and tests your back every mile. But at day's end, the road does one kind thing. It brings you back to a door that swings on rusty hinges and hides warmth behind cheap whiskey and questionable stew. And this spoon, think about it. In a place where fists settle scores and pistols bark truths nobody wants to hear, this battered spoon is your shield. Your quiet rebellion against an empty belly and a world too big to trust. When you raise it, you're claiming something no sheriff can tax and no outlaw can steal, a moment of peace. A mouthful of tomorrow. A memory that tastes like hope. So when you ride out again, remember this saloon in the hollow of your chest. Carry a crumb of that cornbread in your mind when the nights get longer than your patience. Remember the barkeep's nod, half warning, half welcome. Remember the cook's grunt, half curse, half blessing. And remember the pie, because if anything can tame a wandering heart, it's the soft miracle of sweetness in a land too rough to promise much else. Outside now, the stars blink at you like old friends you forgot you had. They watch you swing into your saddle, boots creaking, hat pulled low, behind you. The laughter fades, but never really disappears. It drifts through the cracks, dances with the embers, and waits patiently for your hungry bones to find it again. So here's my last toast to you tonight. May the road rise soft beneath your horse's hooves. May your coin purse stay just heavy enough for beans and whiskey and the surprise pie you never see coming. May your spoon never betray you, even when the stew does. And may the stars remember your name long after your boots forget the way back home. Ride easy. Dream full. And if you wake hungry tomorrow, good. That means you're still alive. Still stubborn. Still worthy of that one last plate, waiting behind a door that's always a little too hard to push open. and always worth the trouble. Sleep well, partner. The saloon sleeps too, but not for long. There's a pot of beans dreaming on the stove right now, and it'll be waiting when you come back for more. Good night, and may the wind carry your laughter farther than any bullet or broken promise ever could. Section 16. The quiet truth no one tells you. Lean closer now. Just once more. Before your eyelids surrender to the lullaby of old wood creaking and a belly that hums like a warm kettle. Here's something the barkeep won't say out loud, and the cook grumbles about only when he thinks you've dozed off by the stove. It's this. Every man who sits at these crooked tables, spone in haunt, pretending he's tougher than the wind and the whiskey, is really just searching for the same thing. Not gold, not fame, not even luck at the cards. Just a moment, a bowl of something hot, a bite that fills the cracks inside the ribs where loneliness likes to build its nest. Out here, the prairie eats men alive if they forget to feed the quiet parts of themselves. The parts that remember how to laugh with a mouthful of cheap beans. The parts that know pie can heal what bullets and debts can't touch. It's funny, isn't it? A saloon this rough floors, sticky, windows cracked, piano out of tune half the week, yet under this leaky roof. Men remember they're still human. They argue. Yes, they curse the cook, the cards, the rain, the drought. They stomp out the door swearing they'll never come back. And every time, when hunger and silence hunt them down on the open trail, they do come back. Because deep down, they know what you know now. A full spoon is stronger than any pistol. A warm plate is braver than any promise made under starlight. So when tomorrow's troubles chew at your boots, and the road shows its teeth again, remember the spoon. Remember the laughter that rattled these walls like a choir made from sinners and saints, both too tired to pretend to be anything else tonight. Remember that even the meanest stew can hush an angry heart if it's eaten slow, among good fools who know how to share a grin between gulps. Out here, this is how men survive. Not by guns alone, not by gold stashed in some secret belt pouch, but by lifting spoon to mouth to smile, smile to soft chuckle, and letting the prairie wait one more hour for your bones. So, here's a quiet truth to cradle against your dreams tonight. A man can outrun debt, trouble, heartbreak, maybe even the sheriff, if he's lucky, but he can't outrun the need for a bowl of beans and the warm sound of another soul breathing beside him in the dark. Close your eyes now. Let the cooks mutter, the barkeep's grunt, and the piano man's last off-key note fade into the back of your mind like an old song you hum only for yourself. Your spoon rests. Your bones settle. The prairie whispers outside. But inside, you carry a fortress built from cheap stew, hard biscuit, and pie softer than any promise the world ever made you. Sleep deep, partner. Tomorrow is another hungry day. But tonight, you're full, and for men like us, that's more than enough. Section 17. Dawns echo the road calls again. The stove's embers sigh. The last mug hits the counter with a dull clink. Outside, night and dawn wrestle quiet at the edge of town. And you're somewhere in between. Half here, half drifting toward the trail that never really ends. The barkeep knows. He's seen your kind 100 times over. Riders with boots full of dust, pockets half empty, and a hunger that stew alone can't hush for good. He doesn't stop you when you stand. He just nods a silent contract that this battered saloon door swings both ways open for when you crawl back, slammed shut behind you when the road gets mean. You roll your shoulders. Feel the last warmth of cornbread and beans still sitting in your belly like a promise you didn't ask for but needed anyway. The cook scrapes the pot clean behind you, scolding tomorrow's beans before they've even hit the fire. He mutters that next time you'll owe him 2 coins instead of 1. He knows you'll pay in silver or in stories. Out here, both hold weight. Step out now. The floor creaks goodbye under your boots. The door groans. Cool air kisses your cheeks awake. A dawn wind snakes through the street, tugging your coat like a playful ghost, daring you to try again today. Look back. Just once. The window flickers with lantern light. Inside, the piano man slumps over his keys. Dreaming half a tune, he'll forget by nightfall. The barkeep pretends to sweep. The cook lifts a pot, ready to start over. Same as yesterday. Same as tomorrow. Out here, everything changes, except this. A man's got to eat. A man's got to laugh. A man's got to know there's a door somewhere that'll creak open and feed him when the world spits him out. And that's enough. Your horse shifts under you. Warm breath, rising into a sky, painted fresh with pink and gold. You pat its neck, mutter a promise you don't plan to keep, about better roads ahead. Better luck. Fewer beans. Maybe. The wind chuckles. It knows better. You tug your hat low. Spur the old bones of this beast beneath you forward. Hooves bite gravel. The road lifts you into its wide, empty arms like an old friend with rough hands and sharp secrets. Behind you, the saloon door sighs closed. Inside, the pot bubbles. The barkeep hums under his breath. The cook curses softly at the sunrise. Life goes on. So do you. When you get hungry again, and you will, you'll remember where to turn back, which door forgives you, where stew boils, coffee scalds, peas soothes, and laughter cuts the cold better than any fire. That's the West's quiet promise to fools brave enough to chase tomorrow. You're always welcome back, as long as you're hungry enough to earn it. Ride easy. Friend, the road calls, the spoon waits, and the stars they watch, always. Section 18. The Last Spoonful, a prayer for wanderers. Sit, still, a heartbeat longer. Partner, let the saddle wait. Let the wind tap its patient fingers on your shoulder. There's one last spoonful left in this story, and it's yours alone to swallow before you ride. You've heard every scrape of the cook's ladle. You've tasted every lie the stew whispered into your hunger. You've bitten into hard biscuits and soft pie, and you've cursed and thanked them in the same breath. Now, here's a quiet prayer for your wandering bones, whispered where no sheriff, outlaw, or storm can steal it away. May your spoon never break. No matter how hard the beans fight back, may your cup find coffee before your eyes find sleep. May your horse carry you steady through dust, rain, and regret. May the barkeep remember your name, even if he pretends he don't. May the cook curse you loud but feed you well. When the trail stretches mean and the stars blink cold above your hat brim, may the memory of cornbread and pie remind your heart why it still beats stubborn in your chest. When your pockets feel light, may laughter weigh heavier in your soul than silver ever could. When the prairie tests your spine with cold winds and long silences, may you remember the warmth of a saloon lamp and the sound of boots scraping plank floors in the dark. Some men pray for gold, some for glory. Out here, the wise pray for enough stew to hush a growling belly, enough pie to hush a restless spirit, and a door that creaks open when the night tries to shut you out. So here's to you hungry now, hungry tomorrow, hungry always for more than just food. May your hunger never shame you. May it guide you home each time your bones forget the way. And if this world tries to knock you down, may you rise up grinning, spone in hunt, ready to scrape the bottom of life's pot for one more bite. Now, lift your chin. Let the dawn catch your face. Smile at the hard road and promise it nothing but your stubborn footsteps and your echoing laughter. You've eaten well tonight. You've dreamed soft. You've earned another sunrise. Go on, rider. The last spoonful's yours. Swallow it slow. Carry it gentle. And may it feed every mile between here and wherever tomorrow hides its next pie, its next friend, its next fight, and its next home. Good night, wanderer. Good morning, dreamer. And may your next meal be just enough to make you hungry for the next adventure. Section 19. Epilogue. A table waiting somewhere. Even now, as your shadow fades from the saloon porch, and your horse carries you deeper into the hush of dawn, something small and stubborn lingers behind. Asher. Half splintered, half forgiving. A spoon, dented by years of stubborn stew, but loyal all the same. A plate that's seen more hope than gold dust. They wait, not just for you, but for every weary back that leans against that scarred wood. For every hand that trembles with cold but steadies when it wraps around a hot mug. For every laugh that cracks across cheap walls and bounces off windows rattling in prairie winds, long after your boots vanish over the next ridge. The barkeep will still polish that counter he claims he hates. The cook will still bark curses at the pot, but stir it like it's his only true companion. The piano man will plink a tune, so crooked it makes drifters smile into their whiskey without knowing why. And one day, maybe sooner than you swear to yourself now, your hunger will find its voice again. It always does. It will tug you off the trail, back through a door you once slammed behind you, swearing never again. Back to the same smell beans. Pork. Cheap coffee. Something sweet, if you're lucky. Back to that chair that squeaks like an old dog, but holds your bones as if it remembers exactly where you left, your last sigh. This is the true secret hidden behind swinging saloon doors. No matter how far you roam, how many lies you promise the road about not needing soft bread and kinder company, there's always a table somewhere set for you. Might be dusty, might be crooked, might cost you the last coin rattling in your pocket, but it waits, because every wanderer carries the same hunger, not just for beans and pie, but for the warmth that fills the cracks the road leaves behind. So, remember this. Rider, no meal is too humble to bind a man to this stubborn earth. No laughter too soft to echo past the edge of town. No stew too thin to remind you you're still alive, still worth feeding. Still worth watching the stars for one more night, when the prairie tests you next. When hunger knots, your gut tighter than your belt ever could. Just whisper to the wind, I know a place, and the wind, mean as it can be, will grin back and guide you there. Asher, a spoon, a plate, a story half told, and a cook who'll never admit he missed you but will ladle your bowl too full anyway. Ride far, ride free, but never too proud to come home to a table waiting somewhere, always a little too wobbly, always just right. Section 20. Final blessing sleep. Beans and bravery. This is it. Partner, the last warm word before the lamp dims, before your eyes give in and your breath settles quiet under whatever roof or sky you claim tonight. You've tasted the West, not in gold or gunpowder, but in spoonfuls of stubborn beans and laughter that sticks longer than any bullet wound. You've learned that pie is worth more than pride. And stew, no matter how suspicious, can hush the loneliest parts of a man's heart. You've seen how a saloon's cracked floor and crooked door can cradle the weight of a drifting soul better than any castle or king's hall. So sleep easy now. May your dreams drift soft as cornbread crumbs in a cook's apron pocket. May your worries slip away like spilled whiskey. No barkeep bothers to mop. May the road tomorrow greet you kindly. And if it don't, well, may your boots and your belly both hold strong enough to grin back at its meanness. And here's my final blessing for you. Whispered, where only the wind and the warm memory of tonight's last spoonful can carry it. May your hunger never shame you. May your laughter never fear the silence. May your saddle always find its way back to a door that swings wide, a table that creaks but holds, and a stew pot that forgives your absence with an extra ladle. If you lose your gold, so be it. If you lose your luck, shrug it off. But guard your appetite for simple things. Beans that fill, coffee that bites, pie that reminds you the world, despite its sharp teeth. It still has a soft bite left for those bold enough to taste it. When the prairie wind roars against your hat brim and your bones ache like an old porch under a stomping crowd, remember this night. Remember how stew, barkeep, cook, and piano man wove you a lullaby thicker than any blanket. Remember that hunger brings you back not just for food, but for a piece of yourself too stubborn to die quiet in the dust. So hush now. Rest easy. Let your spoon rest. Let your boots dream of softer roads. Let your belly hum a gentle promise to tomorrow's sun. You are fed. You are forgiven. You are welcome here, always. And again, and forever. Good night. Wanderer, may you sleep braver than you rode, and wake hungry enough to ride again.